Okay, so today we're all about, where are we? Getting the NDA. You're seeing my face at the moment on the screen.
Yes.
Okay, so today is getting about how to get your NDA signed. A lot of people have a bit of problem with that, so I want to go through. So if you ever tried to get your NDA signed, you can find that a lot of companies, it just grinds to a halt. You just can't get it signed, and there's a technique for it, and there's a reason. So some people walk away and they move on to the next one because they just find it too hard, and that's really sad if that happens. So they don't stop to assess why people get jittery about a non-disclosure agreement, people within the company that you're trying to target. And if you understand that, you can actually get rid of it. So a non-disclosure agreement technically is a legal document. So we understand that, everybody understands that. But if you're asking middle manager, he's not going to want to take the responsibility because there's too much risk for him and no upside. So what is he going to do? He's going to flick it off to the accounting, or sorry, to legal, or if they have a legal department. And suddenly this takes from 1 week turnaround is now a 4-month turnaround. So if you don't want to do that, you've got to have a technique to make sure that it doesn't happen. What you have to do is show him that you understand that every time this middle manager takes an NDA, he's taking on 5 years worth of risk, and you don't want him to do that. So you're going to help him with the risk. And the way we do that is not to hand him a barrier, but instead ask him for help. And I'll show you how we do that. So firstly, NDAs are really important, but if you have a patent, they're less important, particularly if you're doing a license. Because if you're going after a license, it's very rare that you'll talk to a company in a pitch that will be anything up to or beyond your patent. So if you're protected on your patent, you can be a lot more relaxed about going in there and pitching without an NDA. So in fact, some people say, here's my patent. Well, this is what we're going to talk to when we get in there. I'm going to show you how that model works. So if you're insisting on an NDA and you've got a patent, you're probably overkill. We do need to have a patent when we're doing the licensing. So chances are, if you're doing a license agreement, you've probably got a patent, and therefore you probably don't need an NDA. Now, if you're disclosing your commercial model, that's a very valuable asset. But at the same time, how much of it is able to be exclusive to you when you're talking to people in your industry or your market? And therefore, these people are already across it. So unfortunately, there's not much you can exclude from them, even if you disclose it to them. So if they're already knowing it and already doing it, an NDA isn't enforceable. Now, most NDAs have two clauses in there. One is a waiver of rights, and the other is a non-compete agreement. Now, if I explain the waiver of rights, that says that anything beyond what we're going to disclose to you today that you develop belongs to us, because you waived, by signing this, you waive all rights to any future development in this area. And that's a big ask for somebody if they're the champion of that industry and you've gone in there and asked for it. So waiver of rights is probably not going to hold water, and therefore it's going to be very difficult to get that across. And non-compete is almost impossible. If you're talking to a company that's 30 years old and you've got an idea that fit their operations, and you're saying to them, we want to prevent you from competing with us for 3 years after we stop working or collaborating. Now, it could be that 3 years might be from today because you don't do business, but we still collaborated to this point. So beyond that, you can't say to them, I don't want you to be in the business you're in because I'm in that business now and you've signed a non-compete. That's not going to hold up. So you've got to be realistic about non-compete for a large company that you're trying to pitch to as well. So what do you want to protect? What do you own now? And you're going to know that that is your patent. And if your patent is covering it, then you don't need to go beyond that. So now, in our module 3, we've got the NDA script. So that's how we go about getting it. And I want to just walk you through how we do that. So before you set a pitch appointment, ask them if they've got a mutual NDA or a reciprocal NDA which is really a non-disclosure agreement they would have under their name for both ways, and say, look, it's easier for you if you send me your copy of your NDA, and then I'll just modify it for who the sender, disclosure, and receiver are. If that's good for you, it's good for me. Guess what? You've taken all the risk out of it. So now the guy doesn't have to worry about any risk because he's using a document that's already approved by his company. As long as you don't change it, or if you do, you notify him that you do, then this is all approved by legal, so you've saved yourself 3-4 months. So it's always a good thing to do that. So you ask for it and ask if they're okay with you using it as the base for your NDA. Immediately, there's no risk. So most times you don't need to add or remove or change much at all. And in some cases, you won't need to do anything other than the discloser is now you, not them, and the receiver is them, not you. And you just fill it out, send it back and say, hey, I'm able to use your entire document. Thank you for that. It looks really good. I know it's already approved by your organization. Can you just sign it and send it back? And you'll find that it will. You'll get it back in a week. So, and that way, always when you talk to them about it, refer to it as their NDA. Like, for instance, we're talking about, now that I've signed your NDA for my document, for my thing, feel free to just sign it and send it back, and we can get going. But unless you're doing a license agreement, which is only to the patent, you really want to have that done before you walk in and do a pitch, because in the pitch, questions will come up and you'll be disclosing how you're going to go about rolling this out. And you're also going to provide them with the due diligence file. So you do want that all tucked away before you start. Some people will say to you, we'll sign it on the day. And I've had that done to me. The big one that I remember was a company called American Standard in New Jersey. And I struggled to get that inventor out the door. He and I both went into that appointment. And they basically said, we've decided, we want you to sign ours. They only disclosed it on the day. And basically the first paragraph said, we might be working in this area, which obviously they were. And therefore, if we've come up with something similar, we reserve the right to all rights to our product on whatever you've shown us. We can't guarantee that you'll own it. So I basically said, no, we're not going to do this. And so we bowed out of it. Now, you don't want to do that. And so to avoid it, what you really will need to do is to make sure that when the guy has his non-disclosure and you've signed, you flipped it around and signed it and got it going, it's good enough for them, it's good enough for you. So you're showing them in good faith that you don't have to have your legal department look at it. You would still look at it and make sure there's nothing in there that's onerous. But if they've used it for themselves, guess what? It's good enough for you. Okay, so I'm going to stop recording somehow.